Hi, everyone. And I think we can just start, right? So I'm going to share my screen. So that. And first, what I wanted to do is So for those who don't know, we extended the deadline for week 2 for the workflow orchestration week. So, and I just updated this deadline here. So you have 2 more days. Use this time wisely. Don't slack and don't postpone it till the last day. So yeah, and have fun. And this week we start a new week, which is week 3. Yeah, time goes differently with the Data Talks Club. So it's actually week 4, but we're still in week 3, which is about data warehousing. So if you need to access the content, just go here and go through all these videos. Or go to the playlist and go through week 3 stuff. That's pretty much it. The homework is already there. You can access it. You can start doing this. We published it. Michael, when we did we do this? I think I accepted the PR like in the morning today, right? So yes. Yeah, it's already there. And by the way, thanks, Michael, for preparing the homework. Kudos. And yeah, does anyone have any announcements before we go to the Slido, to the questions in Slido?
I guess I have one. I've seen lots of great questions and lots of people helping each other out in Slack, which is awesome. Just a couple reminders there, maybe. See the sheet, the docs, FAQ on posting, making sure you don't have screenshots because it's really hard to read screenshots and you can't search them. So no screenshots. Put the long tracebacks in the thread. Check out the FAQ first, right? All those reminders that just like make things easier for everybody. So that's really great. And keep contributing to the FAQ. I'm seeing lots of good contributions from people as they have questions, which is super awesome. Oh, and the docs. I don't know if we talked about it a lot in our videos, but like if you have a question like, oh, how does this caching thing work or something like, well, this works for pretty much anything in the course, but especially specific to things I've been looking at with Prefect lately. Go check out the docs. Just make sure you're on the version 2 docs, and there's probably something there that'll be helpful. That's all I got.
Thanks for the reminder. And also thanks everyone for helping each other. That's so amazing to see how you help each other. That's really great. And yeah, I just wanted to show you how to find this FAQ. So go to the course page, in case you don't know yet. Click on this link, and yeah, you will see all these questions. And surprisingly, so I was doing a bit of cleaning yesterday, going through the content, and yeah, so we rearranged a bit the questions of week 1. So now they have prefixes. I know some of you started week 1 recently. And by the way, a question that I see quite often, is it already late to join the course? No, it is not late. You can join the course. And yeah, when you have questions, go to this wonderful document. And if it loads today, yeah, it does. So you see that because there are many, many different topics for week 1. So there are a lot of problems with Docker. So like they have prefixes right now. And yeah, surprisingly, like week 1 was so problematic that you see like it's like I keep scrolling, and it's like approximately half of the document is week 1. So this is very interesting because we expected week 1 to be like introductory week, that we shouldn't spend a lot of time. It would be the easiest one, but yeah, finding that it was not.
Setup is hard. Just Python, Docker, all these tricky things there for sure. And maybe it's just because in Prefect it's also clear. We just have not too many questions, right? But charitable.
I mean, there are a few. Yeah, I wouldn't call them like I wouldn't call it.
Get a few more.
Not many. Yeah, a lot of questions. Yeah, so thanks a lot for contributing to this. Any more announcements before we move to Slido? Then I guess we just go to Slido. And then I see that there is comment that week 1 is the hardest. So I'm wondering if, Yash, you already took all the weeks, or it's just your impression so far? Okay, so then, yeah, let's start.
We can ask you, where are you looking at questions? I know we have people, it could be Slack or Telegram or somewhere else. Or
So the questions are, there is a link.
Slido. Sorry, I have that one, yeah, but just Telegram too.
So
Okay.
just in case, what I will do is I will go now to this place called YouTube, and I'll post it here, and then I will pin the link. So now it will be on at the top. So just click here, and then you will be able to ask the questions. And now let me go back here. And Jeff, this one is for you. Can you please explain the Python black setup in Visual Studio Code? Also, can you explain good Python coding standards as you write doc strings and type hints?
I can try. Yeah. So I like black a lot. If you go to just Google black and go to the GitHub README, you see that it's
Black Python probably, right?
Yeah, black Python format or any of those. Super popular in the last couple of years for automatically formatting your code. It is really nice. So mine's set up in Visual Studio Code. So when I hit save, it automatically formats, and it's, as it says, an uncompromising code formatter. And it's, I think it comes from, maybe even says this here, from like Henry Ford back in the day. Someone asked for colored, is that right? It's colored cars or colored telephones from Alexander Graham Bell or somebody. And he was like, they can have any color they want as long as it's black. Wasn't going to compromise, right? Just like, you don't have to think about it now. It's easy. Just go right ahead and get your code formatted automatically. So things like two lines after a function or before, that kind of stuff, it just happens automatically with it. Getting it set up in VS Code can be a little tricky sometimes, but there are guides to that. Yeah, you can just keep Googling is what I do for that usually.
I just wanted to do a shameless plug, because there is another course called MLOps Zoomcamp, and by the way, there is also a Prefect module there. And one of the things there is best practices. And in best practices, we have this code quality linting and formatting. It does not show how to integrate black with VS Code. I don't remember if we do this, but yeah. So if you want to learn more about like testing and black and other things like pre-commit hooks, make files, and so on, you can check this out.
Yeah, it's not too tricky to set up. It's like pip install a package in your environment, and then you have to like give it a path maybe, or set one setting in VS Code, and if all goes well, cross your fingers, it should just work after you reload it. Not always the case. So if they have trouble, a lot of people use it. There's a lot of good resources online. So black is great. This is an awesome set of some resources here on best practices. Type hints are just getting more and more popular. They are very helpful so that people know what kind. So especially with autocomplete in little pop-up type like things like that in Visual Studio Code and other code editors, you can see what kind of argument type you should put in. And then Prefect uses that information also in our flows, for example, to make sure that if it's in the UI, if it's a block in the UI, for example, or some other places, you can, or a parameter in the UI, it'll be smart, and it'll be like, oh, is this a number? Okay, we'll give you like options to put in numbers. If this is a different kind of form field, it'll do different options. And it also can then do some validation to make sure that people actually put in something that conforms to that type hint. So it's like Python is slowly getting more and more smart about how it handles typing, and newer versions just keep adding more functionality. So type hints are nice to use. It takes a little bit of writing, but it makes your doc strings shorter. That was the last thing I asked about here was doc strings. It's just great to have a function in every function to tell people what it's about, right? It's something that like you don't always do if you're in a hurry, but like you should do it. Especially other people are going to read the code. Code is read what, like 20 times more often than it's written, more like however you translate that. Some stats, right? So do it. It's now helpful for you in the future, and it's helpful for other people in the future who are going to read your code to see like, what were you thinking? What is the purpose of this function? Keep your function small. Explain it in your doc string. It's good stuff. It shows up then too in your code editor if you're lucky. If you have a good code editor. That's all I'll say about that.
You know any resources where people can learn about setting up or learning more about these things like good Python coding standards? I mean, here what I showed is obviously a good resource, but it does not cover like all these things that this question asks about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do have a link to like Google style, or there's a couple different styles of doc strings. It seems like they're a little bit much these days, maybe, but there are links for different ways to do type hinting. I can try to. I do have a few things if I look around for them. I don't have them at my fingertips right now, but Michael looks like maybe he's got one he shared there.
Yes, this one's a little bit older, but it is great. It goes into using virtual environments, poetry, but there's a lot to unpack, but I think that's still pretty much the standard best practice at the moment.
Okay, I just shared the link. I hope it's visible for everyone, because sometimes YouTube shadow bans links even from the channel from which we live stream, but I can see from my phone that the link is there. Yeah, so thanks.
Cool. Second question here, eventually the instructions on how to deploy Prefect with Terraform, or will this be necessary? It's not necessary. We do have recipes for using Terraform with Prefect with different things. I don't know if we talked about the Prefect recipes repo, but I'll put a link to it here. Or maybe, I don't know, Khalees, if you have it at your fingertips here. Here's some stuff here. I got it. Let's put this in the messages. So this is the way to share the resource here. So this is in the docs, and we have a GitHub repo where we have lots of different recipes, and some of them here are like, okay, and this is actually a question I saw later down in the thread too. Like, I want to run an agent somehow. How can I do that? There's so many different cloud environments. You can put things on Kubernetes. You can put things on something like a more serverless platform like Fargate. So, for example, on the right there, if you want to use AWS with Prefect and ECS, Elastic Container Service, then with Terraform, like we have some recipes for that. So there's just so many different permutations of possible ways to do things that a lot of these are kind of helpful ways to go and look at options, but it depends on what you're using in the real world use case. I don't think we have anything specific for this course that requires us doing this, so we don't have anything further for it.
And I guess the usual setup that I saw, not necessarily Prefect related, but you typically use Terraform for setting up infrastructural things like, I don't know, Kubernetes cluster. You configure it there, but then there is a separate repo with configuration for Kubernetes that is not managed through Terraform, but through something else. Right? So for that, you don't really need Terraform. And then Prefect could live in this Kubernetes cluster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have some guides to working with Kubernetes in here for sure. I see some of them here. And we do have like a Helm chart that we can use if you're into the Kubernetes world. There's lots of things there. It's a whole rabbit hole.
Is it described in installation, like these Helm charts? That's something else, I guess, right?
I can, yeah, that's just for general Prefect installation, but I can.
But I guess if I just Google Helm Prefect.
It's right. It could be a different one. Here you go. Switch to this tab. Here's Prefect Helm.
That's the right one? Or?
Yeah, same place. Okay. Yeah, I'll share it here too. Oh, you already put it there. Khalees has got it in there. Okay, perfect.
I'll also say there's a lot of YouTube videos we have about, if you're trying to use some of these resources, how to go about using, like, deploying the Helm chart on with Kubernetes and stuff, like tutorial step-by-steps as well.
You want to share the link?
Yeah, I'll find those. Generally, if you just go to the Prefect YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of those tutorials.
Prefect YouTube channel. Let's see. Like this one?
Yep, that's it. We should have some playlists there that have various things.
Okay, I'm then going to share. Is this a duck or what?
It is. It's top of the duck. Blue ducks.
Why ducks though? Like, why do you like ducks so much?
Well,
why not?
You can take it or I can take it.
I don't actually. Our duck is named Marvin. And Jeff, you want to say why he's blue or why we like ducks?
I can go for the boilerplate text. Yeah, so rubber ducking is like a super common thing when you get stuck. Like this, you should do this before you put the question on Slack. You should talk to the rubber duck. Oh, Michael's got his duck. Yeah, I got Marvin here in the background. Bring Marvin over. So you just instead of if you don't have somebody to talk to or you don't want to bug them,
and you can show the duck again.
You can just talk to Marvin. Talk to your own duck, explain your problem. And as you're explaining it, oftentimes you realize like, oh, it doesn't work because I didn't do that thing that's really obvious or whatever. So rubber ducking is a common troubleshooting step for people as they are programming. So that's where we got Marvin, our blue duck.
Any reason why it's blue? It's just nice color.
It is a nice color. I feel like I should know the answer to that, but I don't know if there is a reason.
Because why not blue, right?
Why not blue? Yeah, because then if you use Chat GPT or use some Dolly or some kind of AI generation to get blue ducks, you can get all kinds of weird images.
Yeah, I think that's what you do for your preview images, right? For your blog. Like
A lot of
I think, yeah, it's all stable diffusion, right? Or Dolly or something like
Mostly that. Stable diffusion, yeah.
Yeah, so the next question, can you please explain why Parquet is better than CSV? So
yeah, I can talk about this a little bit if someone else wants to. Actually, I was just reading about this yesterday. I didn't have I had a book in front of me and I was like, oh, I'm gonna like read it right from the book. Maybe I'll copy paste it when I go grab it. I like the Fundamentals of Data Engineering book by Reese and Housley that just came out recently. I recommend that. Again, I don't have a referral link for it, but it is a great book that gives you a lot of background on data engineering, and it has a good description of Parquet in particular and why it's useful. So it can be compressed a lot more than CSV files. CSV is just kind of this like not very standardized way of doing things, and they take up a lot of space, even if you do compress them. So Parquet is a column formatted, column stored.
This is the book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
and
some time ago.
It's very useful for more efficiently storing data, and then you can compress it oftentimes with snappy compression and make it even smaller. So it's a fast way to read and write data and not take up tons of space. There are other file storage methods that are even more efficient for reading fast and writing fast, but it's very good for kind of a balance of ways to store things, and it has some metadata about the columns in it, so that it goes along with it, and that's just really useful for a lot of things like putting it into a database, for example. So it's a winner. I feel like it's pretty much the standard way if you're just going to store something in a file persistent to disk and just going to be sitting on a disk. Like Parquet has become the most popular way to do that with data, but other people feel free to jump in and add on or disagree.
Which chapter is it? Sorry, Michael.
It's in the appendix at the end.
Okay. Yeah, please go.
Oh, I would also add Parquet. You can also do partitioning to decide where the files are written to. So when you read the files back in, it's not going to read all of them like you would with a CSV. And also Apache Delta Lake is built with Parquet files. It just uses extra JSON files to track the changes. So you can just take object storage like S3 or GCP bucket, and instead of making a full database, it just writes the Parquet files, but then you can interact with them like it's a database, which I think is just really powerful.
Parquet is cool. Use Parquet.
Yeah.
We had one issue though with Parquet, right? So when and Michael, you should know about that because you came across this issue again recently. So you have to be careful with the schemas there, because once you say that this column is float, then and then if in another Parquet file it's not float but it's integer, and then you might run into problems, right? So you have to be careful with schema. While in CSV it's just text, right? And then you kind of convert to the proper type as you read, not as you write.
Yes, I would say you need to be very explicit with your schema definitions when saving your files. If anyone is interested, the NYC data I know they updated to Parquet, and there are many files with many issues in there, which is great to practice your data wrangling if you want some punishment.
Okay. Do you have plans to expand on information related to cost optimizing data warehouses, cloud services? I guess this is for Ankush.
So I think we already talked about pricing when it comes to BigQuery. I don't think so. We are going to compare it with other data warehouse solutions outside, like Snowflake, because Snowflake costing is a bit more complicated. But yeah, I don't think so. We do have any plans. I think we're going to stick to BigQuery for now. And just remember, the less you pay, the better it is. But human cost is always more than machine. So there is a compromise always. But yeah, to answer it simply, no, we're not going to do it.
Okay, that was a very short answer. Apart from the docs, where can I learn more about Prefect? Any books or courses, course suggestions?
Wow.
YouTube channel, right?
Teed up beautifully here. I'm teaching a 2-day course on Prefect next week in New York. So if anyone's around New York, it's an in-person course. And you can come and join that. We have a couple and a few other places too coming: London, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco on the books. We don't yet have a remote one, but maybe we'll do something in the future along that. So let us know if that would be of interest to you. You can just reach out on Slack, is great. And that's the short answer. We don't have a book, although we've talked about working on it. The thing is that we are, rapidly improving things, making changes. Just today in Slack channel, I was sharing with people that we have a new timeline view. Since I recorded these videos, and Khalees and I recorded these like 3 or 4 weeks ago, now we have some new visualizations. We have all kinds of new features. So we're still having lots and lots of improvements and updates and exciting things happening. So we need a little bit more standardization there till we do something like a book maybe. But that's the short answer. If you want to come join me, I've spent a couple days together working on it.
So I know that you also have people in Berlin. So any chance you will have workshops in Berlin too?
I think there's definitely a chance there. Anna, who you see in Slack, is in Berlin, and we've had a couple people asking about that. So if that's something that's of interest to people, do definitely reach out.
Okay, I'm going to leave it down. I'm not going to comment on that. When will the new Terraform videos be released? So yeah, there are some issues with the new Terraform videos. I don't know. We will probably finish them before the end of this course, but yeah, I'm not going to promise anything right now. So let's see. Hopefully by the end of this, well, now the first week is over, so it's kind of late anyways, but yeah, we'll try. Why is Prefect register block used, as I can see the GCS block in Prefect UI before too?
I can take this, Khalees, or if you want to just jump on here. Okay. Or what, is that yes, no?
Go for it.
Okay. So this is getting at different servers, right? So when we start out in the course, you're using the Prefect Orion server, and it has a bunch of blocks like ready to go with it, kind of built in. It knows about those, but then we have some there are bunches of modules. We have, I think, over 40 different collections now on our integrations. So all kinds of different things are out there. And if someone has a piece of software and they want it to integrate, they make a module for it. You can install it with pip, but we need to somehow let the server know that it has some blocks in it that could be used by Prefect. So that's what Prefect block register in the name of the module does. And then if you connect to a different server, it would be like Prefect Cloud, for example, or different workspace there, it doesn't know about that server doesn't know about that you have those blocks available. It doesn't have anything on that server. Those blocks live on that server. So you need to somehow let it know. So that's what registering those blocks can do with the block types. kind of relatedly, there was a question about, do I have to, in Slack, about, do I have to like bring over some blocks from one place to another? And that's where it can be nice to do. The answer is yes. It can be nice to define those blocks in code in Python. So you can just run the script, boom, now they show up on your server, your new server, new workspace. We're also working on a way to kind of make that a little easier to copy over all those blocks at once. That's something that, because of this course, I raised with some people, and they are working on some things there. So I want to try to make that as easy as possible. But yeah, if you're using different workspaces or different servers, those blocks live on the server, and you gotta let them know about it.
Okay, next one. What is the difference between Prefect and other ETL tools like dbt, Matillion, and how to get? So I guess there are two questions. So I wouldn't call dbt necessarily it is kind of an ETL tool, right? But more like transform tool. So it doesn't do orchestration. Matillion, I have no idea what it has. What is that? But yeah, maybe, what do you think about that? Like, I guess what would be interesting to compare Prefect to is like things like Airflow, Duckster, I don't know, Flight, and other similar things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think people will learn about dbt here in week 4, right? You're gonna get to see how kind of dbt works and get a more experience with that. You know, these things, things more like Airflow, kind of what are interesting potentially to compare to. I don't know, Khalees, you probably give that spiel more often than I do if you want to do it.
Yeah. So Prefect, actually, our founder was a main contributor to Airflow. And so it was really the vision of Prefect as an improvement of Airflow on workflow orchestration. So, you know, having data passing between tasks and being Pythonic as a first class like citizen feature is really important. I really suggest the article, Why Not Airflow? It was written quite a few years ago, but it actually touches on a lot of points of what Prefect does versus Airflow as well. And then in terms of just a lot of ETL tools, workflow orchestration can do more than just ETL as a whole, right? So if all you are really doing is ETL or transformations or something very particular, definitely use the tool that's right for you as well.
There was, I'm audible, right? I'm just trying to see if I'm muted or not. There was a link. Why it's rubber duck? This is not what I wanted to do. So there was a link that you posted, which that was about events, right? So I'm going to post it too. So I guess this is the workshop about like workshop in New York, right?
Yeah.
And Khalees, do you want to share any links to what you just mentioned, like this article? I guess Why Not Airflow? You probably have a link to it somewhere.
Yeah, let me go ahead and find that blog post. One moment.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a blog post from your colleague recently, from Anna, about something similar. Was it? Anyways, there is another question: how to get data engineering role for non-IT people with 2-year gap? Please suggest any projects. Well, I can suggest a project for this course, right? At the end, after you complete this course, after you complete all the modules, like as a part of this course, you will have to work on the project. This is how you will get your certificate at the end if you pass the project. So this is a good project to include to your portfolio, but maybe, I don't know, Michael or somebody can take that one.
Oh, I don't know if I'd have much more to add other than being active in online communities. This course is a great place to start. A lot of large cities have meetup groups, which are always great. And one of the good side effects of the whole COVID pandemic is a lot of those are remote now. So if you Google San Francisco big data meetup, you know, meet people, talk with them, get their insights, and I think that'd be a good way to approach that.
Yeah, plus one just for getting involved in communities, whether it's conferences, online, in person is great. Volunteer if you can at those. That's often a great way to help out and work with people. go to meetups. I run a meetup in DC on data science. If anyone's in the DC area, there's data engineering meetups in town too. Like if there isn't one somewhere, you can, if there's a few people around, encourage you to start one. You know, that's something you can do regardless of your level of experience.
Then I'm going to do another shameless plug. So we have a podcast, and the topic of career changing comes up pretty often there. And one interesting one, is from Juan Pablo. So here he's actually not talking about, well, it's kind of related, analytics engineering, right? So he was a math teacher who I think like doesn't qualify as an IT person, right? And he was actually also working as an Uber driver. And then, yeah, so here he tells his story, how he actually did this. And he talks exactly about that. He's talking about, going to meetups. And then, yeah, instead of, talking about this, just go and check it. I will put the link here. That's not the only relevant podcast episode. You can just go through like everything we have and see if anything catches your interest. I'm sure you'll find a lot of interesting stuff. And I think we have more links, right? So why not Airflow? Let me put it here too. Okay. So next one. In ETL Web to GCS, can we save the data as Parquet file directly to GCS instead of locally first?
Yeah, I think we answered this in Slack a few places too. We just want to do a few things. One is to, I mean, you could just go right in and ingest it as a CSV file, but we wanted to actually change it into a Parquet file, do some transformation there, and just go through a little bit of a little example of cleaning up something. So yeah, but you could go and read something directly in, like that's fine. And there are tools that are becoming more popular for doing ingestion in particular. Things like Airbyte and Fivetran and other places, especially if you have lots and lots of data in a big organization that's you need to have ingest, like that can be helpful.
And then I see in the live chat comment, so let me show it here. So getting a data engineering job from Jeff Katz. And this is actually one of our videos. So let me show you how to find this one. So you go to our YouTube channel. Hopefully it loads. And then you just put it here. And then this is the link. So I'm going to copy this link and put it here. Okay, yeah, check it out. It's also pretty useful. So thank you for reminding about that. I guess we answered that one, right? So we can just mark it as answered. So I'm a database developer, but I want to migrate to data engineering. I already know basic Python. Do you think that it will be difficult? From what I see, and Ankush, maybe you can tell more, this is like a perfect profile for switching to data engineering. Am I right?
Yeah, I think this is a good time to be a data engineer. And if you have Python knowledge and some database knowledge, it's a great start already. You are ahead of the curve. So it won't be difficult. It will be challenging, yes, of course, but I hope this course helps you out. And I hope that overall it would be worth the effort, because I think data engineering is being lucrative over time.
Anything else to add, or just mark it as resolved, as answered? Okay. Does anyone know good resources for clean coding in Python?
I would say, actually, I do have a resource, Real Python. They do have some paid content, but they also have a lot of free content that I look at frequently. Also, if you go to sites like LeetCode or do the advent of code, not necessarily to solve the problems, but looking at other solutions, you can see some very good examples of clean code. Type hinting is something that I picked up a few years back from advent of code. I still don't do it all the time, but when you see more experienced people write code, you kind of know what you're aiming for, and I think that gives you a lot of direction.
And I think in this video, Getting a Data Engineering Job, Jeff is also talking about learning good coding practices. And I remember that the project he recommended to look at if you want to learn more about good coding was Prefect. So he said, yeah, go check Prefect. And it's a great way to learn how to write good Python code. So yeah, I guess it's a good plug, right?
Yeah. Make it easy so you can just bring your Python code, not have to learn a bunch of other stuff.
Okay. And then there is also a book, Clean Coding or Clean Code. It's about Java. It's a very nice book, but it's not about Java. It's about clean code. But the examples there are in Java. This is like, for me, it was very useful when I was starting coding. But I was a Java developer, right? But what I know is there are examples for this book in Python. So even though the book is about Java, but then there are GitHub repos where the same concepts are illustrated with Python. So you can check that out too.
Yeah, I haven't read this book, but there's also a Clean Code in Python that is out there and gets good reviews on Amazon. So I just copied. I linked it in the chat there. Yeah, the one on the far left. Yeah. So I don't know. Could be worth checking out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me try to parse it. Many did not know about 1 point per post for learning in public, and many lost 12 points as second homework were scored together. As two homeworks were scored together. Can you please have ways to gain those lost points? No. I mean, we kind of told you. And yes, you maybe didn't see the intro video, but yeah, sorry. No, it's late. We will actually recalculate the points for the second homework, or 1B, because there in the forum it said that you can get up to 1 point, but we calculated like the cap there was 7. So we are going to recalculate that. So people who got a lot of points will get just 1. So yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, just don't focus on points. Remember that this is like if you go there and yeah, where's data engineering Zoomcamp? So now I will open the leaderboard and yeah, where it is. Like yeah, we know that the person with this hash did 7 links, but yeah, like, do you know who that is? Probably you don't, right? And then these points are virtual. Like, okay, it's nice to have a good score, right? But remember that, you know, these points mean whatever you want them to mean. Not more, not less. And maybe it's okay if for the first homework you get a few points less than others. But the important thing here is consistency. So if you just do your homework, even without doing any learning in public stuff, which I think you should do, you should post about the course. If you don't do this and you just do all the homework, by the end you will be like in top 20. Because if you look at the leaderboard from the previous iteration, you will see that no, not everyone sticked till the end. And then if you just do your homework, don't worry about like these points, you'll be fine. Yeah. So sorry about that. I know that it can be discouraging that you know, you didn't get as many points as others, but yeah, don't worry about that. Focus on learning. And I don't know, maybe Michael, you have some other suggestions, that some other things that I didn't mention, because you took part last year, but I think you were one of those who did a few posts, right, every week.
Yes, and actually, when I went through, I missed the whole. You can get up to 7 points. So I was just doing one every week, and I just stuck with that. And yeah, I was still near the top. And I think the real value in that isn't necessarily the points, but just being comfortable sharing, writing articles, making videos, So that's the real value there, but everyone likes the clout value too. So as Alexi said, it will fluctuate. So if you keep up with it going forward, you'll probably be just fine.
Yeah, thank you. Why web to GCS to BigQuery and not web to BigQuery? I guess that's a question about our ETL that we wrote, right? Why we wrote first to GCS and didn't skip it.
Yeah, I can take this one. I think this comes up at some point, and we're talking about having your data lakes. A lot of times it's good to put the raw or fairly close to raw data into a data lake, and then you have the opportunity to go and get it if you need to go do something with it. It's kind of the fairly raw, unprocessed data. And then you can take it from there into BigQuery and use it in BigQuery for people who want to go and do some analytics work with it. There are a lot of different workflows these days. A lot of things are happening more directly with BigQuery. Things going right into data warehouses or data lake houses, as they're often known. And there are, these are both Google products here, GCS and BigQuery, and they're just getting more and more tightly integrated, I think, as time goes by, right? We're able to do more and more in, just actually store BigQuery data in Google Cloud Storage and just kind of access it directly. So there's just so many different ways it happens, but a common workflow has been to first put the fairly raw data into the lake and then do things with it later in a warehouse. So that's the flow that we're showing here. But Ankush,
yeah. So I think, as you said, this is just about different patterns. So one pattern is obviously writing to BigQuery directly. One is writing to GCS and then to BigQuery. And obviously everything has its advantages and disadvantages. But writing to a data lake always gives you a certain sort of backup or an advantage per se, because now if you want to move away from BigQuery and use Postgres or use Snowflake, you don't really have to care. You can start from GCS all over again. What happens if BigQuery is not accessible or it's getting expensive for machine learning load, and then you can directly read from GCS rather than actually doing it through BigQuery. Right now, our example is very small, and it does make sense to directly load to BigQuery, right? But what happens if your data size is increasing on a daily basis or weekly basis, and you just cannot put that to BigQuery, or your data is very unstructured, and you need to spend the time to figure out what kind of data do you want to put into BigQuery, right? So all of these questions really comes up when you have a lot of data coming in, a variety of data coming in. So using something like a GCS bucket where you can just dump your unstructured raw data format, and then later on, maybe 6 months down the line, you figure out, hey, this data is really important. I want to put it into analytics. Let me pull this into BigQuery with some work. And I think that's a great pattern to start with. So I would always suggest to look into this pattern in this way. But obviously, there are also companies and some data sources which does make sense to directly put it into your data warehouse or BigQuery for that case.
Thank you. Any advantages or extra features when using Prefect Cloud versus the open source version, except that it's hosted?
Yeah. So Prefect Cloud is open source and there's an entirely free version of it. It is obviously hosted, so you don't have to manage the time of updating your UI and everything with new Prefect versions if you use Prefect Cloud. It also has the ability that you can have collaborators. So with the free version, you also get, I believe, 2 other collaborators that you can invite to. That means sharing the blocks, reusing blocks within the different flows that you're building with your collaborators as well. And then there's also additional features such as not just notifications, but automation. So being able to trigger an action when something happens as well. So for example, your flow fails, or maybe your agent, the work queue is unhealthy, right? You, instead of just getting a notification, you could actually pause the deployment. You could trigger an action with that automation. as well.
Yeah, I'll just add I think there's a fifth homework question. Like people can use Slack, and just in case you haven't been there yet, sometimes Slack is pretty like limiting, and they're like, oh, too many people are hitting us with notifications for things. You might have to make your own Slack workspace. So there are instructions in the FAQ on that. So just check that out. But originally I set it up with email because email's nice and easy. You don't have to deal with Slack, but it's just a cloud feature, right? So if you want that, you have to have an account on Prefect Cloud, which is free. But that's our email server that's running that in the background there. So there are ways you can set things up yourself, but it just gets pretty involved. So a lot of things like that are just kind of easier with the cloud system.
And I guess platform engineers are happy when they don't need to maintain stuff.
Yes, you don't have to employ people to do things.
Yeah. I mean, even if you do have to employ them, right, for running
Still
other
happy.
things,
Yes,
yeah, they're
exactly.
still happy that they don't need to worry about maintaining yet another server.
Right,
So
higher value.
Yeah. Okay. Can you please explain the Prefect radar in UI? The concentric circles with green lines and how to interpret them. So I think I'll try to Google. Oops, where did it go? I'll try to Google it so we have an example. So if I just put it to Google, then we should have illustrations, right? Because I personally also find it not the easiest thing to interpret. Okay, like, is it a good example? If I scroll down, will it be better or worse?
We'll just kind of go over the high level. So the intention of the radar chart, and as you can see, there's different rings of circles, and it is because Prefect does not require a DAG anymore, Prefect 2. And what that means is you can think of each of the dots as the nodes, or your tasks or your subflows, right? Think of them as nodes and edges and how they're connected. So as it expands out, right, it's going down with the data dependencies, for example, and a task could come back through the middle and call an inside ring that has already been called again. And that is really why it's circular. Now, like Jeff said, we also now have a timeline chart in Prefect Cloud as well. If you were to update your Prefect version, that is released as well. I think it's timeline chart.
Timeline view, I think.
Timeline view.
Yeah. It's pretty new. It's pretty cool. I'm not even sure it's totally. We have a picture in the release, and I put a picture in Slack today too of even more updated with the nodes and edges, and it looks a lot. Yeah, is that one right there on the left? You go. Yeah.
All right.
Now it has edges too, so it's linking from one to the other in time. So it's even spiffier than that now, but it kind of gives you more of what you might think of as a fairly DAG-like view for cases where it makes sense to do that. But yeah, it's a little tricky because then we had some good feedback today on this, and we've seen this other times too. It's not intuitive necessarily to understand the radar view chart. It's not something that we're used to seeing as like a DAG, but because things can be more than just DAGs, like we wanted one way to show that everywhere. So we're working on having kind of multiple different views for folks, some that are more basically easily understandable and some that are more for advanced use cases.
Thanks. The next one, we have AWS, GCP, Azure, which we can work in data engineering. And the logic is the same in all, I guess. I don't know if it's the question. I guess there's a question mark. So then, yeah, they are very similar. Like the services you have in AWS, you'll have a similar one, like exactly the same service, but with a different name in GCP and Azure. In this course, we use GCP, but in the future, what is the best cloud to invest time in learning? Does anyone want to take that?
So let me try. So I think if it's about finding a job, spend time doing AWS, because come on, everybody's using AWS and you have a higher probability of finding a company which will hit AWS, right? After that, choose GCS, Azure, whatever you feel. But I think the main important point is to learn the concepts. For example, let's talk about data warehouses for partitioning and clustering. in Prefect how to create your DAGs in particular structure, or like parallelizing your flow. And I think if you learn these concepts, it doesn't really matter which cloud platform you end of the day use, because all of their services would be 1920 to each other. They would be pretty similar. And I think if once you grab the basic concepts, your base layer is good. It's very easy to adjust to both of the cloud environments. I have personally worked on AWS and Google Cloud, and I've also worked a bit with Snowflake. Once you can get the ideas or the concepts, it's very easy to make that switch.
And perhaps maybe I'll add that my experience with cloud is mostly AWS. Not mostly, I think like only AWS. So for this course, I used GCP for the first time, and it wasn't that difficult, right? So the UI is different. I think actually GCP has a better UI in my opinion, more intuitive. And then the only thing I needed to figure out was like this thing is called in AWS like this way. How is it called in GCP? And then I would just Google it, find it, and then just use it. So most of the time it was like that.
I have a follow-up question on this.
Yeah.
What if ChatGPT is only integrated in Azure? Then what do we do?
Well, I'll have to use Azure.
Same here. Need to migrate.
Yeah. So do we mark it as?
I agree. I was +1 to everything there.
To ChatGPT too, right? Okay. So is it possible to make workflow orchestration tool serverless so that I do not need to host it? I just need to pay when flows run. So I know in AWS they have step functions, which is a serverless workflow orchestrator.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like if it works for you, then.
Yeah, and Prefect has some serverless options too. So we can use, depending on your cloud provider, we support kind of all of them. Here's a link to a post that Anna wrote. I just shared in Slack or in the meeting chat here. Yeah, I think it's maybe the same one. There you go. And there are other patterns too. We are working on something where right now, kind of you have to put your agent somewhere. So you could put your agent on ECS even potentially, but we're looking at potentially a managed solution too, where if someone just doesn't want to hassle with it, we can just deploy things for them using Google Prefect Cloud. But that's a few months off probably.
So here, what does this project do? So you say streaming. That's something different.
Yeah, this one does a number of different things here. It's using, if I recall, it's using Cloud Functions, and it's using GitHub Actions to kind of do a CI/CD kind of deployment. There's a couple things going on there, but Anna has a whole repository and walkthrough in that blog post. So that's just one example of doing it.
Essentially what it's going to do is the same way in the videos, how you can just run a prefect flow just by calling a Python function. You can run that wherever. And if you're connected to cloud, you're going to be able to visualize that. You're not going to have to host the UI as well, the Orion server. And so if you wanted to, you had some sort of event happening and you just wanted to execute your Python function as a flow to get visibility, you can just do it right there.
I think this is a different post. Is it? I don't know why it doesn't load for me.
Oh, click the view post.
Okay.
I think it links over towards.
I see now. Parquet. Okay. Yeah. We will not read them now. And I think in GCP there is also something similar to step functions. What is the difference between calling a flow from a flow versus a function defined with subflow?
We don't have an @subflow decorator, so you wouldn't use that. But you if you use some flow decorated function and call another function with that flow also decorated, that's just kind of our way we use subflows. There also is another pattern where you can run deployments. You can call a function to run deployments called run_deployment from within a flow. And that can kind of let you just like, all right, I want to run a bunch of things here. Maybe I have them in a loop or something. And that's a pretty cool way to go. I'm just reading the YouTube comments here. Did Anna put that question in there? She said I passed the test that there wasn't a subflow. Funny.
Okay, I zoned out a bit because I was answering her in live chat. But we finished that one, right?
Yeah, we're good there, I think. Can you please record the live workshops? Oh, for Prefect. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. So I hosting meetups also, I'll just draw on like, it's great to have hybrid options for folks. People who can be remote, people who can be in person. Definitely adds complexity in how things are done, and just like a lot of more with logistics and things. Short answer is no, but if people were interested in some kind of online Prefect specific course, like send me a message in Slack. I'm there. Like, let me know about your interest level. It sounds like there's some interest.
At least 6 people are interested.
At least 6, yeah.
Maybe more just didn't know that they can vote.
Right.
To Prefect team, how the deployment really happens, and what is the difference between the Prefect Orion and Prefect Cloud during deployment, the code locally?
I can take it, or do you want to, Claes?
What
really happens here? Okay, so deployment. So server, again, back to the server, right? We have a server. When you do a pip install Prefect and then Prefect Orion start, you have the server running locally, and you communicate that with that server through the command line, or and then information goes to the server, right? And so you can put the deployment information on the server. It's the same thing with Prefect Cloud, except it's hosted. It's our database that's getting that information. So in both cases, there's a database backing things. Locally, it's a SQLite database by default. And if you want to, you can use Postgres for bigger, higher use operations with multiple people. And we have a Postgres database on Google Cloud that is backing our stuff on the cloud too. So that's
There's a
pretty
question.
similar.
Which cloud you use? Did you say Google Cloud Platform?
GCP, yeah. So exactly, that's what we're using in behind the scenes too. Difference, those are just different servers in different places. As Khalees mentioned before, ours can do things like do authorization so that only certain people have access to data, and you can share and collaborate on Prefect Cloud. But basically, it's just the information lives on the server there, and then when it's time to go and run that, you can schedule it as you've seen from the homework and elsewhere in the course, and it will. The agent somewhere will be polling and saying, hey, all right, yeah, I got something ready to run here. There's something that's waiting. I'm going to run it. And the agent will kick off a process either on your local computer or in some infrastructure you specify, like Docker, and it'll make sure that it has the flow code available there. So question 4 on the homework, lots of questions there. We asked you to put the code on GitHub, because GitHub's super popular, right? You want to be able to collaborate with people on GitHub. So the code is being found on a GitHub repo, and then the processes are being started in that infrastructure, and then it all runs beautifully, never have any errors, and everything works.
What do you think happens if I open this link?
Rick Astley.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Do you want me to test?
it could be a link to me.
It looks legit.
It's gotta be a Rick roll. Come on, Rick.
Well, why there are Rick rolls without ads? Like, you should check them. Because at least Rick will get
YouTube wouldn't make any money then.
Yeah, and Rick too, right?
Google needs some money.
Yeah. Okay.
You need the music for it though too.
Yeah. Okay.
So that relates to this next question here. Yes, there is. I've already recorded a video.
Homework 2, question 4, right?
Yeah. I got the
Oh,
I got the video recorded already. You just can't see it yet.
We will release it after the deadline. Question from Chris: do you feel any feature is missing in Prefect that is available in other tools like Airflow, Duckster? And what is the roadmap? And why it is 3? I guess not the roadmap, but Prefect, right?
Where's the feature? That's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. Well, we can start with the first one.
What is any feature? No features are missing. Everything's there. Easy.
And more, right?
Yeah, and way more. No, I think there's always new things we can add, and it's kind of nice to have multiple tools that are all working hard to compete with each other and up the game for workflow orchestration. I think the winner is everybody who's the users there. So we'll keep doing that. As I mentioned earlier, we have more visualization tools in the works and things happening there. We just want to keep making things easier and easier to use. This course, you got to see a number of things, but we didn't even touch on things like parallelizing work with Dask and Ray. We have integrations for things like that. We can always just kind of make it an easier process. Things like, there's a number of parts you have to start kind of for any of these services, right? Whether it's Airflow, Daxter, or us, and we want to do things like make that easier and easier. So there's lots of things there. We have free Python version, just like everybody else, because we want people to go and use it and get value out of it, and that's great. And then for companies that need to have more like kind of enterprise features, you want single sign-on, you want to be able to control things when people leave your organization, all that kind of stuff. Like we get a company behind it, and it's kind of a win-win process for everybody. It allows us to, Khalees and I, to get paid and work on Prefect and do things like teach courses like this, and it like helps everyone do it. So I think it's good for all of data engineering.
And how do you see your future roadmap? Is it publicly available somewhere?
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't have a publicly available feature roadmap, but we partly just because we iterate really fast on things. Every week you'll see there's about a new release. So if in this course, and I'll point this out here for folks, we pinned everything. We pinned our versions and all the work to try to make sure people coming here in a year, hopefully everything still works well. That's a much higher probability of that. It's a good idea to pin your versions a lot of times for your packages, but there's a lot of iteration taking place. So we have new views in the last couple of weeks. We have other new features. So if you want to kind of see what's happening, what's latest, just don't pin it. Just do an upgrade. Just do a pip install -u Prefect, or same thing with other packages, and then you see what's happening. And we do have release announcements and release notes every week when we release at least once a week.
I think that's all we have time for today. So what we will do is we will try to answer these questions asynchronously. So for example, I can record a video answering some of the questions. I will not be able to answer most of Prefect questions, so probably we will coordinate with Jeff and Khalees how to handle this. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. That was fun, and enjoy working on the Prefect week. And now it's the new week starts. So happy learning.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.